so I took this sort of calculated risk, and I felt amazing about it, and all of a sudden I was like going for coffee in the middle of the day, and it was like life was amazing to have just a different sort of change in schedule. And then the anxiety sort of set in. How many of you have a Bachelor of Arts? Anybody? Okay. If you have a Bachelor of Arts, taking a course in SQL is so hard. Like, it's just like, what? And it was because I had no exposure to any of this way of thinking ever in my life. It was like, it just like hit me like a brick wall. So, you know, I'd be sitting in class, taking notes like a complete crazy person, highlighting in 15 different colors with my sparkly pens, you know, sitting in front row, the only person who ever asked questions. This was all guys, right, and they don't really talk. So I was just kind of like, I don't understand. And in many instances, especially in this SQL class, the professor would sort of be writing on the board and talking, and I could only hear one, you know that voice in movies where something bad is about to happen, or the main character is sick and everything's like that was his voice, and I was just like, I'm gonna fail. And as you know, I left a really comfortable job in the recession. There was no, like, failure, not an option, and I had no career to go back to. So it was pretty scary, and living in my parents' basement was also not an option because they live in Montreal and I was living in Toronto at the time. So again, I tried to think about this really big problem I had, kind of entrepreneurially-ish, and you know, entrepreneurs don't always act alone. If they're lucky enough that they can find a good co-founder, they can seek some help from advisors, or they can hire people if they have funding or if they have friends that want to do free work. And so I realized that just like an entrepreneur, hey Steve, I couldn't do this alone. Like there was no way I was going to fail, and I don't know what I think my backup plan was to like be a waitress. So I did two, I think, important things that were really critical to my success in that program. The first thing was I got a tutor. I got an amazing tutor. This is just a guy from Ryerson who was really excited to tutor a girl. And I mean, again, common sense, but I felt like I just needed someone to break the concepts down in a way that I could understand them, because it just wasn't happening in the sort of formal classroom way. And the second thing was that I made friends, because I really felt kind of alone in the program and not really, I study really well with people, I feel like I work well with others, and I wanted to be around people that were kind of, or at least be friends with people who had the same kind of drive and motivation that I did to do well. One of those people is Steve, actually. He works for Wave Accounting. No, like really, he's part of the show. He works for Wave Accounting, and he was one of my buddies in class. We would sit together and we would totally like geek out, and we did a lot of projects together. And I'm really happy that I met Steve because we studied, and it was awesome. So thanks. Yeah, it's like pure coincidence. So yeah, so I did those things, and all of a sudden, again, I had this rock star feeling. I'm like, I can do this. And it's funny because unlike some of you who were taking apart dolls, I was not taking apart dolls. I was playing with them and loving it. Brushing hair, getting the nice outfits, all that. Accessorizing. So I'm terrible at math. So to take those kind of classes, to take like Java, was like honestly death. But I mean, I enjoyed it once I finished it, but just doing it, I felt like my brain, I could feel, I don't know if it's the right or the left side of the brain, but it was like pulsating with every statement that I was like, committing. Anyway, so yeah, I'm bad at math, and I don't really like Star Wars or any of these sort of things. These things that you're supposed to people with your parents, oh, should be great for career technology. But I thought I'd be a makeup artist or something. Like I didn't think that this would have been the path that I would follow. But I was loving it, and I was loving every moment. However, so I'm in this program, I'm doing really well now, I'm like a cool kid, or sort of in my own mind. Whatever, I mean.
They all are.
Exactly, I mean, if you're taking programming, who really is cool? So yeah, and this was also way before Ladies Learning Code was ever in existence. This is like 2008, 2009. I don't think you guys were around. Yeah, so I had to just like figure it out. So now it's October 2009. The program is ending in December, and I still don't have a job, which is like the whole point of doing this program and doing this crazy adventure. And just like an entrepreneur, I was running out of money. So I needed to do something and somehow be employable. So I was definitely applying. I was actually applying to any company that was hiring any sort of tech person. And I took a look at, if you think about the sort of recruiting process as like a bottleneck, as sort of like a funnel. Yes, thank you. Like a funnel, I was sending out my resume everywhere, and I was not hearing back, and I was getting really worried. And I didn't think it was about the look of my resume or the way I had worded things, because I'm pretty good at that. Bachelor of Arts, you know, great stuff. But I felt like the sort of barrier was really who was looking at my resume, and I felt like I was being screened out. And so instead of just applying everywhere, I decided to change my strategy by only applying to really small tech companies. And the reason is that I thought that chances are a small tech company wouldn't have a human resources person to screen me out. I realized the irony in that statement, but I just felt like if you're a really little tech company, you know, the woman or man who's looking to hire for their team will be looking at those resumes, and hopefully that person would say, oh wow, this Lindsay person, you know, she seems kind of cool, like doesn't really have a lot of tech experience, but you know, she's really determined. So anyway, that was the strategy that I sort of changed up, and it worked like a charm. Within a week, I had an interview at a 50-person tech company called MedWorks, and they make software for hospitals. And yeah, it went really well, and the VP that interviewed me became my boss, and it was like 1 week. It was totally surreal. I finished the program at Ryerson, and I got a job. I felt like, you know, throw the confetti, life is amazing. But that was where it all started. That job was really, really, really hard. Every day I thought I was going to get fired, like for like 5 months. So it's kind of like, you know, you do all this stuff, and then you're like, why did I do this to myself? But what's hilarious about it is that I worked for this company for about 3 years. It was really cool. But my boss said to me years later, he said, you know, in your first couple of months, we were really rough on you. He was like, you had a really hard job. I was hired to be a business systems analyst. He's like, our organization never even had that role. And he was like, you did a great job of it. And he's like, for your first 4 or 5 months, I thought you were going to quit. So I think the sort of lesson I kind of want to convey is that, you know, sometimes your own perception of your performance is actually really different than how others perceive you. And sometimes we're a little bit harder on ourselves than we probably should be. Another really important person to me at that organization, quite senior, said to me towards the end of us working together that he thought that one day he would be working for me. And I was kind of like, whoa, really? But I think it's a really powerful statement for me to hear that, considering how I didn't know what I was doing right now. I don't even know if I know what I'm doing right now, but it was a really powerful statement to hear. And I think the reason why I want to share that with you is because I think in your career, it's really important to have people, or at least one person, that sees more potential in you than you see in yourself. And so if you don't have a person like that, try to find it, because I think it's really, really important. Now, I guess to end off, I have an ask, but it's more of like a reflective ask. I want you guys to think about the idea of regret in your career and in your life. I find, at least, that most people don't regret stuff that they did. They regret things that they didn't do. So if you're thinking about making a change in your career and your life, you should do it, because then you won't regret it.